Hey everybody, it's Rod from Cool Guy Barbecue, and today we're going to make this is called a Denver chuck roast, and I got this at the grocery store the other day, and why it's a Denver chuck roast, I don't know, but I made one the other day with this recipe, and it was so good, so I had to make it for you. Okay, so here's what's going to happen today. We're actually going to make a brine. We're going to soak the Denver chuck roast in the brine overnight. And I can tell you, I tried this and this is awesome. So you should really try this one. Okay, so what are the key ingredients today? We got some Merlot wine. 2 cups of that are gonna go into this plastic container. And then what I have is a 1/2 cup of Worcestershire sauce. And then I've got a 1/2 cup of soy sauce. And I found this recipe on the internet, and I'll credit the person I found it from, but she said it was a family favorite. And then I've got this is a tablespoon of onion powder, and then it's going to be a tablespoon of garlic powder. And the reason I'm kind of just sprinkling this around like this is so that it kind of flows into the juice kind of evenly. Now, what I'm going to do in a minute is I'm going to put the lid on the container here. And then I'm going to shake this up to get it good and mixed up. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to drop in the chuck roast, the Denver chuck roast. Okay, so what I did is I took that sauce with the onion powder and the garlic powder and I just shook it up, and I did it in the sink with the lid on because sometimes, you know, the lids can leak and I didn't want to get sauce all over the place. So that's what it looks like. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take this beautiful Denver chuck roast and we're going to drop it into the brine. And then what I do with this, I cover it up and I go put it out in the fridge. Now I'm going to let this thing sit for overnight. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon right now, and I'm going to let it sit overnight. I'll get up in the middle of the night, or maybe even like 9-10 o'clock before I go to bed, and I'll flip it, because you want to flip it so that you get brine on both sides of it. But and then what we'll do tomorrow is I'm going to show you a quick rub recipe I've got on this that just is fabulous. I'm going to put it on the smoker, and then I'll show you how I cut it up and make it into some really cool sandwiches at the end. But stay tuned, as we're going to go put this out into the fridge for overnight storage. Okay, so yesterday we put this Denver chuck roast in the brine, and I did flip it 1 time so that I get a uniform color on both sides. And again, that brine was Merlot wine, soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce, and some onion powder and some garlic powder. So it's been sitting in there for just shy of about 18 hours. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paper towels, I'm going to lay it on my metal tray for a second, because what I want to do is I want to dry this this chuck roast down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, kind of grab it with this, shake it in here to get as much of the grease off as I shouldn't say grease, brine off as I can. Then I throw it on here. And then what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to start to dry it off before I rub it. And so I'll just pat it down real good and get it so that that brine on the outside edge of it absorbs into the paper towel. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rub the chuck roast with 2 of my favorite rubs. And these are 2 rubs I get online. And they're both really good. And I found them in Texas. The first one is my Suckle Busters SPG rub, standing for salt, pepper, garlic. And I've used this before in some other recipes. This one is really strong. And I'll tell you, when you start working with it, it actually makes you sneeze. I seasoned the other side already, and I'm sneezing a little bit because how strong it is. The other one we're going to come across with is the Hardcore Carnivore Black. And this is a charcoal-based rub. It's fabulous. I've given this one to a lot of friends to try, and it's just a really good, just a different tasting rub. Makes a great flavor. And it'll also make a nice black color to the chuck roast. Now, I started the grill this morning already, the smoker, and we're going to start this at 190 degrees F, and we're going to let it go for quite a while on a long smoke. And then what I'll do is I'll crank the temp up, and I'll get it up to a finished temp at 205. but that's kind of the goal where we're going today. So hopefully I won't start sneezing as I sprinkle this Suckle Busters on, the SPG rub, because this is just a tough stuff. And I think I told you, you want to buy that a bottle at a time because it can go a little, it can spoil on you. And I can feel a sneeze coming on, and hopefully I'll get through this without sneezing, but that's just a real aggressive, strong rub. So then I come across with the Black Carnivore next, and I really lather this on, and you can see it's going to make a nice black color, and it has a different taste, so I'm going to rub that down inside of it too. You can see I got both sides, and it just looks awesome. So in a minute, I'm going to take this out on the smoker, and when I get it out there, I'll show you what it's going to do. But before that, I'm going to put this in the fridge for about 10 minutes to set the rubs. I always like to put the meat in the fridge and set the rubs. It seems like the rubs will stick better when I'm out on the smoker. So stay tuned. Okay, so I got the rub, or the chuck roast out of the fridge, and it's all rubbed up, and it looks absolutely awesome. And I put it on this new cooking plate that I've got, or pan that I've got, and it's got a center grate in it. And my objective is to try and catch some of the oils and the brine that's coming off so I can put it onto the sandwiches at the end that I'm going to make. But I used this the other day, and it seemed to be kind of effective, so we'll be kind of watching and see how that works today. The other thing that happens is people often ask me what type of pellets I use, and I stick with only 2 flavors. I use hickory and I use maple. And what I have found when I pellet grill, that if I stick with those hardwood type products, that the grill runs more consistently, there's less auger jams, and it's just more uniform as I cook. So I'm a hickory maple guy. There's other types of pellets you can get. You can get maple, you can get mesquite, you can get cherry. I would stay away from mesquite. Mesquite seems to have more problems with the augers when I've ran it than others. But again, I like to use hickory and maple. I've got the smoker fired up this morning. It's at temp. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go out and we're going to put this chuck roast right on the grill and let her smoke. And again, we're going to go for a first temp of 160. We're going to try to get to 160, then we're going to wrap it, and then we're going to bring it up to a final temp of 205. So let's head out to the smoker. Okay, so I'm out here at the smoker, and you can see I've got it set at 190 degrees F. Again, I always crank it up to over 200 to let it sterilize, and then after I get up to over 200, I bring it back down. But I've got it set for 190 degrees F. And all we're going to do today is we're just going to take this pan and we're going to set it right there on the middle of the smoker, and we're going to let it go. And I'm going to guess probably 4 hours before we, 4 or 5 hours before we wrap it up. So stay tuned, and I'll bring back I'll check some temperature a little while later, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm out at the grill. I started cooking this Denver chuck roast this morning at 9 o'clock. I put it at 190 degrees F, and now I'm going to check my temperature. And like, if you remember, I told you I put it on this new kind of fancy pan. Oh, I gotta get my, okay. And so we're at about 136, 137. I'm slow cooking it up to a temp of 160. So we'll just let it keep going for a while, and if it's like 230 and nothing's happening, I'm gonna goose my temperature because I've put enough smoke into it already. So stay tuned and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I started the Denver chuck roast at 190 F at 9 o'clock this morning. It's now 3 o'clock. So we're gonna quick check the temp. And it's hitting about it's about 146. It's probably gonna go a little higher than that. So what I'm gonna do, since it's been on so long and there's so much smoke into it, I'm gonna take my temperature over here and I'm gonna kick it up to 225 to get this moving along. And like I said, my goal is to get it up to 160 and then wrap it. Then I'll shoot my temp up even higher and take it up to a final temp of 205. So the last time when I was out here, I kicked the temp up to 225 and we had a temperature of 145, and it's been an hour. And what I was trying to do is to get the roast up to 160. So look at this. It's gonna be really, really, really close. Yep, it's at 1 Okay, it's gonna make it 160, 159. Yep. And oh god, well, it's 159.8, close enough. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take this in the house and wrap it. But I guess the big takeaway on this is I smoked it for a long time at 190, and then to get it up to finish temp, I raised it to 225, and it marched right up there within an hour. Okay, so what I've got now is I've got 2 pieces of foil here, and I'm gonna double wrap this beautiful chuck roast. And that plate, I gotta tell you, that's hot. And I was hoping to catch a little bit more grease in the pan, but not a lot. But it's still, I mean, it still cooked it up really, really nice. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap it like this. Kind of tent it up a little bit, I think. I always like to tent it to catch the grease. Across this other piece. Because what I'm going to do when I get this up to temperature, I'm hoping I have a bunch of grease to put onto my sandwiches for you. So I just changed the grill temp from 225 to 275. So now we're going to take this back out to the grill. We're going to put it on at 275. And we're going to bring it up to a temp of 205. Okay, it's been another hour, and now I'm trying to get to my magic temp at 205. So let's take a look. Yep, it's done. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, throw that on a hot pad, and we're going to take this into the house, and what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it in a towel and then 20 minutes in the cooler. Stay tuned. Okay, so I've got the chuck roast, the Denver chuck roast, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it in a towel. I get it wrapped up really good, and I'm going to set it in this cooler, using the cooler as a hot box for 20 minutes. And the reason 20 minutes is it's a little bit different than brisket. If I was doing brisket, I would leave it in there much longer. But on chuck roast, it seems to me, and I'm not, an expert, it's just going off my own personal experience, is that if I leave it in longer than 20 minutes, the chuck roast toughens up a little bit. But if I cut it right at 20 minutes, it becomes a really nice, chewy, easy to swallow piece of meat. So stay tuned, because in 20 minutes, I'm going to come back and we're going to cut this chuck roast up and I'll make it into some sandwiches for you. Okay, so I've got my Denver chuck roast, and what I did first is I kind of peeled it back and I poured the au jus into this pan. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift it out, and it kind of shrinks down, as you can kind of see. I'm going to lift it out of my tin foil there, and now I'm going to start to cut it. And I like to cut it in really nice thin pieces. You kind of see what it looks like there. And you see that little bit of pink on the top? That's the smoke ring from its smoking. Okay, so I got it all cut up, and now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start putting it into my au jus. Now, one thing as I peel this back, just take a look at how moist it is and glistening with juice. So I just kind of stack it in here nice and neat. And then in a minute, I'm going to come back after I get it all in here. I'll give you a picture of that. And I'm going to have the Rod Teets moment of truth. Okay, so I've got all my Denver chuck roast all cut up. And what I've been doing is I've been just kind of moving it around in the au jus juice to get it on all the sides. Okay? And so I get it kind of covered with all the au jus. And that's what it looks like, okay? Maybe if I even move that around in there, a little spin around, I'll get more there. Now, what I like to do when I do these sandwiches, I get these, it's from Country Hearth. It's their hamburger buns. I think they're the best. And what I do is I just cut those bad boys in half. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a piece of this Denver chuck roast. I'm actually going to take 2 and put it in there. Like that, makes a great sandwich. And then one of the other things I like to do is I like to add just a little bit of mustard to it. And this is Trader Joe's spicy mustard. And there you go. That right there is your Denver chuck roast sandwich. And now comes the Rod Teets moment of truth. I made these a week ago, and they're fantastic, and these are just as fantastic. The chuck roast is so smooth. I mean, so soft. It just melts in your mouth. And with the mustard and everything, you just get an absolutely incredible sandwich. It's like no beef sandwich I've ever had. And you get that wine, the soy sauce, the Worcestershire sauce, the black carnivore, the SPG rub. It's just an awesome sandwich. So, if you want this recipe, you want to make it, it takes a little bit of work, but it's worth every bit of time that you put into this. You can email me at rodteets@gmail.com, or you can go to YouTube and subscribe if you want to Cool Guy Barbecue, or this will be on there as the Denver chuck roast sandwiches. And down in the description, there's going to be a blue link. You can click that blue link and get step-by-step instructions on how to make this on your pellet grill. But this is definitely a home run. You might even add a little bit of horseradish with it or something, but it's just a fantastic sandwich. So this is Rod Teets signing off. Hope you try my chuck roast recipe, and we'll go from there. Thanks.